With us now, Senator Orrin Hatch, a senior member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. He joins us from Salt Lake City. Senator, first your thoughts on this day and Justice Scalia.
Well, this is really tragic. Anthony Scalia is one of the all-time great Supreme Court justices, close friend of mine, just somebody who you could always enjoy. He had a tremendous sense of humor. And
Senator Hatch has long been involved in working with, vetting, and ultimately voting for or against Supreme Court nominees. He was there in 1986 when Antonin Scalia first joined the U.S. Supreme Court, and Senator Hatch got to know the new justice better than most.
Now, what steps do you take as a judge to ensure that you're going to give a fair hearing to both sides of any issue that comes before you?
Maybe it's a quirky cast of mind, I don't know, but I like playing with statutes.
Senator Orrin Hatch remembers visiting with Antonin Scalia.
I, Antonin Scalia, do solemnly swear.
Right after he was first confirmed to the High Court.
That's a tragic loss to the country. He was clearly one of the most brilliant Supreme Court justices in history. Well, my first comment is we're losing one of the all-time great Supreme Court justices who not only was a great justice, but a great human being. He had a great sense of humor. He was a great family man. He was very religious. He believed in his Catholic faith strongly. He had a wonderful family, and he was a very, very dear friend. I have to say that, he's just one of the greatest people who ever served in Washington, as far as I'm concerned, and a great, great justice. He was intellectually one of the most powerful justices ever in history, and frankly, everybody liked him. That's a tragic loss to the country.
Hatch, who served as the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, says political views aside, Justice Antonin Scalia was respected by all.
Here, guess who's coming up during the 8 o'clock hour on New Day? Orrin Hatch. Orrin Hatch will be here.
It will be the first time we've heard from somebody who will have a heavy hand in this process.
Voted on the confirmation of every single justice currently on the Supreme Court. No one in the Senate, except for Patrick Leahy, has voted on more Supreme Court nominations than Orrin Hatch. And he used to be chairman of the Judiciary Committee. So that's someone you need to listen to.
Tough to hear the news that he died.
Well, it is, and isn't it terrible that so soon after his death we've gotten into all this politics already, but, it's just the nature. These are such important positions.
Republican support. Now, I had a number of conversations with Republican senators today, two of whom are on the Judiciary Committee, Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, Orrin Hatch of Utah. Both of them believe the president should wait till next year, like Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell.
Senator, thanks very much for joining us. You obviously have a lot of historic, unique perspective on this whole confirmation process, the notion of going forward. The president is going to nominate someone to succeed Antonin Scalia. Should you hold hearings before the Judiciary Committee for this nominee?
Well, he has an absolute obligation and even a right to nominate whoever he wants. Now, the second part of that is the United States Senate has an absolute right to handle it when it comes up to the Senate. And we're already into the presidential race right now, so to make this a big political brouhaha is not the way to go as far as I'm concerned.
Indeed they are. Now, the Constitution says that the president shall nominate it. It doesn't say you and the Senate have to do anything at all. You can sit on it or you can deny it. You can do whatever you want. But do you have any thought on whether the president shall nominate?
Well, a lot of people don't realize that the president has an absolute right to nominate whoever he wants to. But the Senate has an absolute right to confirm or not confirm.
As well, there's every reason to give President Obama his constitutional authority right now. You don't have to like whom he nominates, but shouldn't you go through the process?
No, I don't think there's any real reason to do that,
What about the Constitution?
Look, let me make a point. Well, the Constitution doesn't require a vote.
Well, but it does say that you should give advice to the Senate.
Well, that's right. It gives the Democrats the absolute right, the president the absolute right to nominate, but the Senate has the absolute right whether to confirm or not confirm.
Well, Republican Senator Orrin Hatch of Utah says that now is not the time to fight over the nomination.
This president's been treated fairly. 40% of the total federal judiciary has been confirmed for this president. He actually has put 40% of the federal judiciary up, and Republicans have allowed votes on all of those. Now, what they're saying is, look, we're in a tremendous presidential campaign. There's a lot of bitterness on both sides. Let's diffuse this thing, and let's put this off until the next President of the United States. Well, the President has an absolute right to nominate whoever he wants to, and I would vote to protect that right, but the Senate also has an absolute right to confirm or not to confirm. And so I do support Senator McConnell in saying that, look, let's get it out of this terrible presidential brouhaha that's going on, and let's get it over to the next year and be fair to both sides, because what would happen is whoever wins the presidency is going to be able to make this nomination. He will submit a nominee. He has a right to do that, by the way. I'd be the first to champion his right to do that. But the Senate also has a right to either confirm or not confirm, or even hold hearings on it.
A 4-4 court is not a good thing for the Supreme Court. It's functioned that way before.
Wait, you're talking to Orrin Hatch. A 4-4 court functions. It's functioned in the past. It'll function this time. It's just on the really controversial issues, they'll probably put them off for a year. It is such a very, very tough political year that I think almost anybody with brains would say this is probably not the time to pick the next Supreme Court justice, because there's just too much infighting between both sides, and there's a lot of bad feeling on the Republican side towards President Obama and some of the things that he's done, which Republicans consider to be extra-constitutional or outside of the Constitution. I just don't want the court politicized, and this would be the biggest politicization of the court in history, and that's saying something, because there have been some other times that certainly would come close to matching this. But in all honesty, I just don't want to see the court denigrated any further, and it would be in this very caustic election year. And as you can see, and when I hear the Democrats complain about judges, look, they're the ones that really screwed up the whole process by knocking out one of the finest legal minds in the history of this country, Robert Bork, and then literally doing despicable things with regard to Clarence Thomas, who has turned out to be a marvelous judge on the court. And I could go down through all kinds of other things where they want it all their way. And what this says is, let's be fair. Let's have both sides have equal opportunity. Whoever is the president after this election, that president will have a chance to do this. Right. We want to preserve the integrity of the court. And look, it depends on who wins the presidency. Right. The Democrat could win, then you're right back where you are, and Republicans would certainly go along with that. If a Republican wins, then we may be able to protect the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms, make sure that we make some inroads on the abortion issue, and make sure that we, that we protect religious freedom and freedom of speech. If I was Hillary, I'd want the right to pick that judge. If I was Bernie, I'd want the right to pick that judge. It gives the Democrats the absolute right, the president the absolute right to nominate, but the Senate has the absolute right whether to confirm or not confirm ways. But there is a real value in protecting the integrity of this court, which I've done my whole 40 years in the United States Senate, by not letting it be in this tremendously volatile brouhaha called the presidential elections of this year. And I personally believe it ought to be put off until next year. And whoever is president will have the right to nominate whoever they want to.